Good morning. Welcome to Plugged In. We're going to be, again, in Daniel chapter 6 right after this. Hey, welcome back. And while it's fresh on my mind, some prayer concerns, requests. I don't always send those out, but I'm going to here today. The first one is tomorrow school starts. So let's be praying for our students and the faculty, the teachers, the administration, everything that has to do with the school system. We just want to keep them in our prayers. It'll be a wonderful year. Things that will run smooth, and just pray for that. Pray for our country. We cannot do that enough. We can vote in November, but we can be praying between now and then. And so definitely we need to do that. And on a personal note, just keep my dad in prayer. He's had some health issues, kind of been in and out of the hospital. We think everything's on the positive side, but just extra prayers don't hurt. So I would appreciate that. So yeah, today is Monday. We're back, and I'm going to read for you a story to open up. Now, as I read it, you might wonder, what does this have to do with our story in Daniel? And if you'll just bear with me, we'll get there. But there was a story that Max Lucado, maybe you've read a lot of his books. He wrote one entitled In the Eye of the Storm, and he wrote about a woman named Sarah. So what I want to do is read that story and then share with you how it connects into our story out of Daniel this morning. And then I will allow you to have your time to yourself and your week, and appreciate you watching this show. So here's how the story goes. Sarah was rich. She had inherited $20 million. Plus, she had an additional income of $1,000 a day. Now, who wouldn't want that kind of income? That's a lot of money in any day, but especially it's a lot of money in the late 1800s. Sarah was well known. She was the belle of New Haven, Connecticut. There was no social event that was complete without her presence. No one hosted a party without inviting her. Sarah was powerful. Her name and money would open almost any door in America. Colleges wanted her donations. Politicians clamored for her support. Organizations sought her endorsement. Sarah was rich. She was powerful. She was well known. And she was miserable. Her only daughter had died at 5 weeks of age. Then her husband had passed away. So she was left alone with her name, her money, her memories, and her guilt. It was her guilt that caused for her to move out west. A passion for penance drove her to San Jose, California. Her yesterdays imprisoned her todays, and she yearned for freedom. She bought an 8-room farmhouse plus 160 adjoining acres. She hired 16 carpenters, put them to work, and for the next 38 years, craftsmen labored every day, 24 hours a day, to build a mansion. Observers were intrigued by the project. Sarah's instructions were more than eccentric, they were eerie. The design had a weird sort of vibe, so to speak. Each window had 13 panes, each wall 13 panels, each closet 13 hooks, each chandelier 13 globes. The floor plan was ghoulish. There were corridors that snaked randomly, some leading nowhere. One door opened to a blank wall, another to a 50-foot drop. One set of stairs led to a ceiling that had no door. There were trapdoors. There were secret passageways, tunnels. This was no retirement home for Sarah's future. It was a castle for her past. The making of this mysterious mansion only ended when Sarah died, and the completed estate sprawled over 6 acres. It had 6 kitchens, 13 bathrooms, 40 stairways, 47 fireplaces, 52 skylights, 467 doors, 10,000 windows, 160 rooms, and a bell tower. Now, why did Sarah need such a castle? I mean, didn't she live alone? Well, sort of. There were visitors, at least as the legend goes. Legend is that every evening at midnight, a servant would pass through the hallways that led to the bell tower. He would ring a bell, summon the spirits. Sarah would then enter the blue room, a room reserved for her and her guest. And together they would linger until about 2 a.m. when the bell would be rung again. Sarah would return to her quarters and the ghosts would return to their graves. Who was it that was visiting her? It was Indians and soldiers killed on the U.S. frontier. They had been killed by bullets from the most popular rifle in America, the Winchester. You see, what had brought millions of dollars to Sarah Winchester had brought death to them. So she spent the remaining years in a castle of regret. You can actually still visit this mansion out in San Jose. It costs around $50 for a ticket. But to see what unresolved guilt can do to a human being, you don't have to go to the Winchester Mansion. Lives imprisoned by yesterday's guilt are in our own town. Hearts haunted by failure are in our own neighborhoods. People plagued by pitfalls are just down the street, or maybe even just down the hall. Again, you might be wondering, what does that have to do with our story? And we've taken little pieces of it. I want to read for you Daniel chapter 6, beginning verse 12, and in just a few moments, verse 14 will appear on your screen. The decree has been made. Remember, no one is to pray to any deity, any person, except King Darius. That's who the prayers are to be to for the next 30 days. And if anybody breaks that rule, they are to be thrown into the lion's den. So the government officials have been spying on Daniel, and they have found out he's been praying 3 times a day. So they go to the king and they want to know if for sure this decree has been made. So picking up verse 12, the king answered, "The decree stands in accordance with the laws of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed." Then they, that is the government officials, they said to the king, "Daniel, who is one of the exiles of Judah, pays no attention to you, O king, or to the decree you are writing. He still prays 3 times a day." Now, verse 14. It reads this way. When the king heard this, he was greatly distressed, and he was determined to rescue Daniel and made every effort until sundown to save him. There's a particular word that pops up in my mind when I read this section. It's the same word that Sarah dealt with. It's the same word that maybe you deal with. It's the word regret. When Darius found out that Daniel was one of them that was not obeying the decree, it upset him. It didn't upset him like King Nebuchadnezzar was upset and furious. No, Darius had an attitude of, ooh, I wish I had not done that. I want to fix this. I want to see if I can possibly save Daniel. Next week, we're going to look at what Darius's regrets led to for him and often to us. But as we wind this down this morning, I want to leave you with some questions to ponder. Let me ask you this. Have you ever done something that you wish you could take back? Do you wish that your life was like an Etch-a-Sketch? You've done something and it doesn't look right, and you shake it and you erase it so you can start all over. Maybe you know a Darius or a Sarah Winchester. Let's get more personable. Are you currently haunted by some regrets in your life, leaving you feeling trapped or imprisoned instead of free? The Apostle Paul said this in 2 Corinthians chapter 7, godly sorrow brings repentance that leads to salvation and leaves no regret. We don't say, oh man, I wish I hadn't have done that. No, it brings freedom. But he says this, but worldly sorrow brings death. And for Darius, there was a worldly sorrow because he realized that the decree he had made was not really a decree that should have been made, and it was hurting and harming someone close to him. Next week, we will continue in this story to see what his regrets led to and how that deals with us. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next Monday on Plugged In.